Okay, so let's unpack this. Imagine a future where the familiar landscape of America has been dramatically reshaped, fractured not just by time, but by internal forces. A future where everyday life is intertwined with technology that's kind of beyond our current grasp, yet also eerily familiar. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a fascinating, complex, and sometimes pretty unsettling narrative, a source that transports us to the year 2032, painting a vague picture of what a divided states of America might actually look like.
Yeah, and what's really compelling here is how this narrative, it just seamlessly weaves together all these pressing societal anxieties, things like political polarization, climate change, the rapid evolution of technology, and it bundles it all into a deeply personal story. Our goal for you today is basically to extract the most impactful insights, understand the implications of these imagined future scenarios, and kind of connect the dots between events that might seem disparate at first glance. It's sort of a shortcut to being well-informed about a highly speculative, yeah, but definitely thought-provoking vision of what could be.
Right. We'll be following the journey of a woman named Laura. She's navigating her daily life in what's now called coastal America, and then she ventures into this contrasting territory, the heartland. But here's where it gets really interesting. Her trip takes this unexpected turn. It pulls her and us into a wild, time-bending encounter with figures from our past, leading to some pretty shocking revelations about Earth's destiny. So yeah, get ready for some truly thought-provoking moments.
Okay, let's start with the setting then. So the USA has actually split two distinct countries, coastal America and the heartland. And our story centers around Laura, who's a nurse living in coastal America. Southern California specifically.
Right, and her daily life, it's actually surprisingly relatable. Despite all the futuristic stuff, Laura's described as quite the health enthusiast. Wakes up at 5 a.m., plays this beat-the-alarm game. The narrative really grounds her in a very human routine, even while the world around her has just changed so profoundly. Yeah, it's in the backdrop of that routine that the narrative layers in some really advanced tech, isn't it? Flying cars, for example. They're ubiquitous. Though, interestingly, the source points out some people, especially senior citizens, still prefer roads. They say they enjoy the journey, maybe don't want to rush the time they have left, something like that.
Makes sense.
And when Laura gets home, it's this whole symphony of automation. Her smart home just anticipates her needs, creates this perfectly tailored environment the moment she walks in. Soft jazz playing, thermostat adjusts to 72 degrees, cool air, pleasant aroma, the works.
Sounds incredibly convenient, almost. Too convenient. But there's a flip side. Smart appliances are everywhere. Okay, transparent fridges showing contents, that's kind of neat. But then you have these talking toasters. They recognize the time and just start screaming ads at you. Top of the morning to you. The narrative does mention that many consumers block these aggressive ads.
Thank goodness for that.
Right. It offers the subtle commentary on how privacy concerns, they just persist, even in this advanced future. So convenience explodes, sure, but the underlying insight seems to be about the cost of that constant digital connection, like a gradual erosion of personal space and maybe control.
And personal devices seem really integrated, too. Screens just materialize out of thin air for video calls. Laura calls her husband, James, and her sister, Sandra, using these holographic displays. Navigation devices also project destination info right onto the windshield or something as the cars fly along.
Yeah.
It paints this picture of a world where, digital interaction is just the default way of doing things.
Which leads to some pretty profound social impacts in coastal America. RFIDs, for instance, they're used as new passports. Chips storing personal info, they come in various shapes, like credit cards or lapel pins for adults. And even necklaces or bracelets for kids. It's this evolution of personal identification.
Wow, okay.
And a really striking aspect is the ubiquity of holograms for social interactions. The source describes these ghost dinners. Dinner tables often filled with more holograms than actual humans. That really indicates a significant decrease in physical social interaction, doesn't it? It suggests that maybe ease of communication doesn't automatically mean deeper connection.
That's a bit chilling, actually, the ghost dinners. And their legal system is quite unique, too, right? Coastal America has rules instead of laws, no Supreme Court. Apparently, this has reduced the need for lawyers, fostered a society that's seen as less litigious. It's such a stark contrast to the legal landscape we know today.
Absolutely. A completely different approach.
So we have coastal America, this highly technological, digitally connected society. Now let's follow Laura as she ventures into the heartland to visit her mother, Andrea, in Arizona. You get this sense of the border as they transition through this giant inverted U structure. It scans their RFIDs for entry.
And that transition, it immediately highlights these significant cultural and systemic differences. It's like night and day. Unlike coastal America, the heartland has adopted the old way of government, complete with executive and legislative branches and what they call the archaic judiciary system.
Archaic, huh?
Yeah, that's the term used. And economically, paper currency is still very much in use. These distinctive blue $20 bills, they have intricate paisley patterns, a Confederate flag, and the current Heartland president's image on them. A huge contrast to coastal America's digital economy where, credit is king. Some places in the Heartland apparently don't even take credit cards.
Wow. It must be quite a culture shock for Laura then. Especially, the source mentions guns are openly carried and very common. It describes a waitress at a pancake house carrying one. Laura's reaction is described as genuine shock, while her mother, Andrea, who lives there, just shows this casual acceptance, like it's normal.
Totally normal for them. And education is different too. Harry, Laura's son, mentions they don't get any homework in schools in the Heartland. None at all. And Laura actually chose to teach her children herself up to 5th grade. The source says she had an option to select the subjects. It suggests a very different philosophy around personal choice, education, societal norms in the Heartland.
Very different.
And on the economic front, the Heartland faces challenges. Reduced immigration, according to the source, has led to labor shortages. There's an example of a contractor for Laura's friend Betty who just can't find enough help. Culturally, industries are completely polarized. Country music dominates the Heartland. Western movies, definitely a Heartland thing.
So everything's divided, even entertainment.
Pretty much. And this stricter immigration policy is even cited as a reason for university closures. Populations dwindling in university towns, which significantly impacts the local economy there.
It truly paints a picture of two incredibly different societies, almost like parallel universes existing side by side. And then we get to the historical event that caused all this, the Great Divide. Harry, Laura's son, he actually learns about it for the first time on this trip.
Right, and the narrative depicts the Great Divide's origins as this: boiling over of extreme political polarization. The source explains that anger spilled over, and it was fueled by a divide-and-conquer leadership style. People just stopped trusting each other, viewed every single action through a prism of politics. Everything was political.
Sounds exhausting. And familiar, maybe.
Unfortunately, yes. The specific catalyst, as presented in the source, was the last U.S. election, where, and this is the quote, one candidate had more votes, the other candidate won. And this apparently led to widespread questioning of democracy itself. It's a really powerful illustration of how quickly societal trust can just erode.
That's intense.
Yeah.
And the result was this mass migration. Liberals moving to coastal America, conservatives to the Heartland. And what's really intriguing is that the Democratic and Republican parties actually ceased to exist because each country became so, homogenous in its political views.
Exactly. No need for the parties anymore, apparently. And this deep political division also impacted justice. The source states that justice became tainted with corruption because lawyers were abusing the system, leading to this profound loss of public faith in the judiciary. The takeaway here seems to be how deeply intertwined political and legal systems are, and how widespread distrust can just unravel even fundamental societal structures.
So it's amidst these stark societal divisions that Laura's journey takes this truly unexpected turn. Her family gets into a car accident, but it's far from ordinary. It becomes the catalyst for a much bigger, almost fantastical revelation. It's caused by the dramatic arrival of Flight Commander Don Stockton from NASA, who mysteriously arrives from the year 2015. And his companion, Tom, who turns out to be a mixed-breed alien.
Yeah, talk about a plot twist. The immediate aftermath is just full of confusion. Don and Tom are completely bewildered. They think it's still 2015, only to be told, nope, it's 2032. Don is absolutely shocked. He learns NASA closed down a few years ago and that the USA is divided. He feels orphaned is the word used. Like he no longer knows his identity as an American.
That's heavy.
It really is. The narrative also includes a specific viewpoint on the U.S. president at the time of the Great Divide. Don expresses disbelief that Donald Trump was president then. And the source states that he brought out the worst of us and widened the rift. Now, we're simply relaying the source's perspective here, as it's a direct attribution within the text. We're not taking sides, just reporting what's in the narrative.
Understood.
Yeah.
And then the future takes an even more alarming turn. Don reveals these devastating geographical changes he witnessed in his future travel from E2, the alien planet he was on. Florida, he tells them. Florida has submerged due to climate change. Only the panhandle remains. This apparently caused a mass exodus and completely overcome FEMA. Just gone.
Devastating.
And shockingly, Los Angeles broke off from the mainland and became an island due to a massive earthquake on the San Andreas Fault. And the source suggests this was actually caused by fracking far away from California, directly connecting these huge environmental disasters to human activity.
Yeah, and this ties directly into the broader theme of environmental abuse that's woven throughout the narrative. Tom, the alien, he highlights that Earth is dying, much like his species' first two planets, which they apparently exploited and ruined. Mars is also cited as a planet abandoned for millions of years, again, due to environmental abuse.
So a pattern of planetary destruction.
Exactly. The implication is profound. Humanity seems to be standing at this critical juncture, and its choices around climate and resource management will literally determine its fate. Can we avoid this, or are we just expediting the process, as Tom puts it? The source really emphasizes climate change as this critical, undeniable issue that must be acknowledged for human survival.
Okay, let's dig into Tom's background a bit more. And his home planet, E2. It's described as the third planet colonized by his species, and it's billions of years older than Earth. Billions. The aliens themselves sound quite remarkable. They appear human, mostly, but they can manifest 2 extra fingers, transfer knowledge just by a handshake, which makes their eyes glow red, apparently. They can self-heal and even regulate their body temperature.
Pretty advanced beings.
And Tom, as we heard, is a mixed breed, half human, half alien. Don then introduces this concept of Goldilocks planets, those planets just right for sustaining life, which really puts Tom's dire warnings about Earth's state into sharp perspective.
Absolutely. And it's Tom's profound observations about Earth's fate that give Laura this key aha moment. Tom actually states, "This means that future events have not yet happened. That means that we still have time to change our destiny." This is a huge shift in perspective for Laura, and really for the whole story. It emphasizes the importance of addressing root causes, like the fracking mentioned earlier, to potentially change this bleak future.
So there's hope, maybe?
That's the suggestion. But Tom also expresses concern about humanity's internal divisions. Races, religions, all the ways we separate ourselves. He sees that as hindering our ability to find solutions together. The real insight here seems to be the idea that even the direst predictions can be altered, but it takes awareness and, crucially, concerted effort, unity.
Okay. And as Don and Tom try to figure out where to go next, we're introduced to the concept of Indian nations, or the res, as this kind of neutral territory. Don's crew member, John, who is a person of color, he explains he experienced imprisonment and forced slavery in the bleak future he witnessed. So he prefers a neutral place away from both coastal America and the heartland.
Understandable, given that experience.
Right. And George, a former law professor who's living on a res, explains that reservations are now more autonomous. He says they're even pampered by both countries, coastal America and the heartland, because both are vying for their allegiance. It really makes you wonder, what does it truly take for a community to thrive in such a divided world? Maybe that kind of autonomy, even if born from a difficult history, provides a unique sort of resilience.
It's an interesting dynamic, but this neutrality, it's very quickly challenged by some high-stakes military tension. The alien ship, the pod they arrived in, it gets discovered by both coastal America through a guy named Doug and the Heartland, by Bill and Kirk Raymond. These guys are part of images analysis units or deep space activities monitoring centers, basically surveillance hubs.
So they're being watched.
Immediately. And a critical point here is the instant political friction. Who owns the ship? Who gets the intel? There's this confrontation where Heartland military cars, which have been modified with weapons, hover over the ship, but the ship has an invisible protective shield, makes it invulnerable to their attacks. This forces Tom to use his stealth mode ability for the pod, making it just disappear from detection.
Wow. High-tech versus high-tech.
Oh!
This leads to the dramatic climax then. Don comes up with this desperate plan. He uses something called Relixer. It's described as a dark liquid from E2 with this astonishing power to reverse time, or at least abort specific events. His plan is to use it to prevent the original shuttle launch that sent them to U2 in the first place.
Yeah, a real Hail Mary. And the outcome of this plan has these profound implications. Don and another crew member, Terry, they awaken back in 2015 on the shuttle, and crucially, they have zero memory of Tom or E2. The launch is simply aborted for technical reasons, as far as they know. Another crew member, Kim, who also drank the Relixer, asks, "Who's Tom?" which implies her memory was erased too.
So, did it work? Did they change the future?
That's the big question, isn't it? Did they actually change the future, or did they just erase their memory of it? Could they be stuck in some kind of time loop where the same events might still occur, maybe slightly differently? The source's final scene is actually set in 2035. It shows Dawn and Terry in Florida. which suggests some future events did still happen, like maybe Florida didn't fully submerge, or their part in it changed. But perhaps their personal experiences, their knowledge of the future, was altered. It leaves you with this lingering sense of ambiguity about destiny versus free will. It's unsettling.
Definitely unsettling. So what does this all mean, this whole deep dive into the narrative? It leaves us with a lot to ponder. From those shocking predictions, Florida submerging, LA becoming an island, to the really deeply personal impacts of political division. It's a powerful, if speculative, reflection on societal choices.
It really is, and it raises that crucial question. What happens when a country loses its moral compass? The source itself, in a section titled Let's Think Together, directly addresses the real-world implications of these themes. It really urges critical thinking. It discusses how truth ceased to become absolute, how it got replaced by two versions of reality, and how that led to cynicism and the politicization of absolutely everything, even sports and entertainment, as we saw. The core insight there seems to be that when objective truth is abandoned or seen as relative, society just becomes incredibly vulnerable to fracture.
Yeah. And the source, as we mentioned, points to a specific political figure, Donald Trump, as the one who brought out the worst in us. It also criticizes his stance on climate change quite harshly, calling it a death warrant. It argues pretty forcefully that acknowledging climate change is the key to our survival as humans. Again, we're impartially reporting this perspective as it is presented in the source, noting its very strong viewpoint.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the narrative is essentially this powerful plea for unity and responsibility. It strongly suggests that while, sure, external forces can be challenging, it's the internal division and the neglect of crucial issues like climate change that are far, far more destructive in the long run. It uses that really powerful imagery stating that America doesn't need to be made great again. It was merely a campaign chant to divide us. And the author's personal note at the end about English not being his first language and his simple desire to tell a story and communicate with you as simply as possible, it adds this other layer of sincerity to the message, I think. The ultimate insight seems to be that our shared existence, our survival on Earth, is really the highest stake. Everything else is secondary.
That really resonates. The story ends with this poignant thought, too, about the U.S. always being the United States of America, implying that true division is impossible if we actually choose unity. It's presented as a reminder that we all have a weapon to counter this attack on our democracy, our vote, and that maybe our focus should shift to something like make Earth green again, prioritizing our collective survival over, petty squabbles.
A powerful closing thought from the source.
Indeed. So, what stands out to you from this deep dive? How does this fictional glimpse into a divided future resonate with our present challenges? Is the future truly mutable, like Tom suggested? Or are some destinies, maybe the big ones, inevitable? Keep asking those questions, keep thinking critically, and keep diving deep into the knowledge that helps us understand our world and perhaps helps us change its course.